In this video, I am going to talk about compressive strength of concrete, acceptance criteria as per Indian Standard 456-2000. So let me begin. Compressive strength of concrete is the most important parameter out of various strength parameters. That is because the other concrete parameters like tensile strength, flexural strength, bond strength, modulus of elasticity, shear strength, etc. are always expressed in terms of its compressive strength, and therefore the concrete compressive strength becomes a vital consideration for the structural design. Concrete compressive strength is always specified for the compliance purposes on the construction sites. Now, let us see what is meant by characteristic compressive strength of concrete, which is measured after 28 days of curing. So, characteristic strength, which is denoted by FCK, is the strength of material below which not more than 5% of the test results are expected to fall. For example, if we cast 100 concrete cubes of M20 grade, that means 20 Newton per mm square strength after 28 days of curing, then we expect that at least 95 cubes out of 100 should show the value equal to or more than 20 Newton per mm square. Means 5 cubes out of 100 are permitted to fall below the 20 Newton per mm square. Then that strength we call it as characteristic compressive strength. So here it is a Gaussian distribution curve or the normal distribution curve, where we can see that FCK here is a characteristic compressive strength and FCM is nothing but mean target strength of the concrete, and FCM is given by FCK plus 1.65 sigma, that is characteristic strength plus 1.65 sigma, where 1.65 is the risk factor corresponding to 5% permission of failure, and it is obtained from statistical table, and sigma is the standard deviation obtained for that concrete. Going next, now again clause 15.3 of IS 456-2000 says that one sample should at least contain 3 specimens. So each cube here is called as a specimen, whereas combination of 3 cubes it's called as a sample. So the cube is of dimensions 150 mm, 150 mm by 150 mm as shown here. They can be of dimensions 100 by 100 by 100 also. It is permitted by IS code, but most of the times we use 150 by 150 by 150. So going further, now as per clause 15.2.2 of IS 456-2000, let us see frequency of sampling. What the clause says is the minimum frequency of sampling of concrete of any grade is as below. That if the quantity of concrete in the site which is measured in meter cube, it is between 1 to 5, then we have to take one number of sample, that means 3 cubes. If the quantity of work is between 6 to 15 meter cube, then we have to take 2 samples, that is 6 cubes. For 16 to 30, it is 3 samples, that means 9 cubes. For 31 to 50, it is 4 samples, that means 12 cubes. And 51 and above, it says 4 plus 1 additional sample for each additional 50 meter cube or part thereof. So let me tell, for example, if it is 100 meter cube of work, that means 51 and above, that means up to 31 to 50 meter cube of concreting on the site, we take 4 samples for testing. If it is 51 and above, that means if it is 100 meter cube, that means another 50. So you have to take one additional sample for each additional 50 meter cube or part thereof. That means it may not be exactly 50 meter cube, maybe less than 50. So part thereof. So proportionate you have to take. Now the important note at the below of the table is at least one sample shall be taken from each shift where concrete is produced at the continuous production unit, such as ready-mix concrete plant. Frequency of sampling may be agreed upon mutually by suppliers and purchasers. Now, let us see what is meant by 4 non-overlapping consecutive test results. So, let us assume that we consider 10 samples. That means 30 specimens because each sample has 3 cubes. Take any 4 samples to create a group, 1 to 4 or 5 to 8. So here in the diagram you can see sample number 1, 2, 3, 4. That is a group of 4 samples. Then here sample number 5, 6, 7, 8. So again group of 4 samples, and each sample will consist of 3 cubes or 3 specimens. Minimum requirement to create a group is always 4 samples. Here 3 to 6 are overlapping. So this is very important to understand. That is 1, 2, 3, 4. They are non-overlapping. But again, if you take 3, 4, 5, 6, that means 3 to 6. Then again 3 and 4, they are from the previous batch and therefore they are overlapping. Whereas non-overlapping means either it is 1 to 4 or 5 to 8. They are called as non-overlapping. Now going further, the quantity of concrete which is represented by a group of 4 consecutive test results shall include batches from which the first as well as the last samples were taken together with all intermediate batches. In all the cases, 28 days strength shall alone be the criterion for acceptance or rejection of the concrete. That means we only consider 28 days strength for acceptance or rejection. We don't consider 3 days, 7 days or maybe 14 days. It's only 28 days. The test results of the sample shall be the average of the strength of 3 specimens. That means whatever one sample you are considering, the strength should be reported of that sample, not of individual specimen, and that compressive strength of that sample should be the simple average of the strength shown by each specimen. Individual variation should not be more than plus or minus 15% of the average strength. That means whenever you get a mean strength or average strength, then the compressive strength of individual cube in that sample should not be plus or minus 15% of that average strength. If it is more or less than 15%, then the test results of such samples are declared to be invalid. That means they are not accepted. Now, characteristic compressive strength compliance requirement is given in table number 11 of IS 456-2000, and so many amendments were carried out. So amendment number 4 was carried out in May 2013 and it is corresponding to clauses 16.1 and 16.3. So some changes were made in that table number 11 and that was amendment number 4. Now what is that? I will simply read out. So if you see the first column of the table, they say specified grade, that is M15 and above. That means this table is now made for grades M15 and above. The second column is mean of group of 4 non-overlapping consecutive test results in Newton per mm square minimum. So it says that for compliance it should be FCK plus 0.825 into established standard deviation or FCK plus 3, whichever is greater. So out of these two, whichever is greater, that is accepted. Individual test results in Newton per mm square minimum should be FCK minus 3 at least. That means minimum the individual cube test result should be FCK minus 3 minimum. It should not be less than that. Now, note 1 after this table. In the absence of established value of standard deviation, the values given up to M60 grade in table 8 of IS 456-2000, that is amendment number 4 May 2013, may be used. That means if you don't have standard deviation value for a particular concrete, then we can use the standard values given in table 8 of IS 456-2000, and that table is also modified in amendment number 4 May 2013. So we can use those standard values for a particular grade of concrete. However, it is always better to make an attempt to establish the actual value of standard deviation by conducting compressive strength test in laboratory on 30 samples. That means 90 specimens. Note 2. For concrete quantity up to 30 meter cube, where samples are less than 4 as per clause 15.2.2, which already we saw some 5 minutes back, the mean of test results of all such samples shall be minimum FCK plus 4 Newton per mm square, and the requirement of minimum individual test result shall be FCK minus 2 Newton per mm square. That means individual test result should not be less than FCK minus 2. It should be more than FCK minus 2 or at least minimum FCK minus 2 for this condition. That is, if the concrete quantity is up to 30 meter cube, where less than 4 samples are to be used. However, when number of sample is only 1, that means only when there are 3 specimens, okay, that means your concreting is only between 1 to 5 meter cube on the site, then you take only one sample as per clause 15.2.2. That means only you test 3 specimens. In that case, the requirement shall be minimum FCK plus 4. It should not be less than that. Now, let me practically illustrate what is the acceptance criteria. I will take 3 cases and for each case, I will take M25 grade of concrete. So, case number 1. Laboratory target mean strength at 28 days for M25 concrete. That means when I carry out concrete mix design as per Indian Standard Code 1026/2019, then the target mean strength, okay, which I want in the laboratory, because there the quality control will be very good. It is characteristic compressive strength plus 1.65 into sigma. So it is 25, that is M25 plus 1.65 is the risk factor, into 4 is the standard deviation, which I obtained from table number 8. So that is 31.6 Newton per mm square. Now let me take case 1. Suppose I am doing 5 meter cube of concreting on the site. That means I have to take only one sample, that is 3 specimens, as per clause 15.2.2. Now here the table shows the values which are given by concrete cubes in compressive testing machine. So cube test results: cube 1 has given 19, cube 2 has given 26, and cube 3 has given 16 Newton per mm square after 28 days of curing. Now if I take average of all these three, it is 20.3 Newton per mm square. Now if I make 15% less than this, that means 0.85 of F average, then it's 17.3. If I make 15% more of F average, that is 1.15 into average, that is 1.15 into 20.3, then is 23.3. So acceptance criteria is FCK plus 4, because there is only one sample. So that is 25 plus 4, that is 29 Newton per mm square minimum. That means the group should show at least 29 Newton per mm square after 28 days of curing, and therefore these results are rejected. Why, I will tell you. Because the minimum strength of 29 Newton per mm square is not achieved, because here the average strength you can see here is only 20.3 Newton per mm square. And also secondly, the variation in strength of the cubes, that is 26 and 16, they are out of the range of plus or minus 15% of average. For example, whatever individual cube strength, that should fall between 17.3 to 23.3. That means it should not be less than 17.3, it should not be more than 23.3, because the clause says that the individual cube strength should not be plus or minus 15% of the average strength, and therefore here when I applied both the criteria, they are failing. Again, the requirement is it should pass both the criteria. It should not happen that one criteria is passing and other criterion is failing, then also it is not accepted. Simultaneously it should satisfy criterion A and criterion B. Hope the things are clear. Now going to case number 2. Suppose now there is 28 meter cube of concreting is done on the site. Okay, now again we know that for 28 meter cube, there is up to 30 meter cube, you have to use 3 samples as per clause 15.2.2, that is 9 specimens. Again, this table is concerned with case 2. So here sample number 1, they have given the strengths as indicated here. Average is 31.3. Then sample number 2, they have given the various strengths as indicated in column number 2. The average value is 28. Again the sample number 3, again individual value of specimens is given in column number 2, and again average of these 3 is 28.7. Again when I take 85% of average, then it is 26.6, 23.8 and 24.4. And again when I increase it by 15% average value, then 31.3 into 1.15, that will be 36. Similarly 28 into 1.15, that will be 32.5, and 28.7 into 1.15 will be 33. So again let us apply the acceptance criteria. What the IS code says: acceptance is FCK plus 4, that is 25 plus 4, that is 29 Newton per mm square minimum it should be. And for individual, FCK minus 2, that means individual cube should be 25 minus 2, 23 Newton per mm square. It should not, individual cube strength should not be less than 23 Newton per mm square. Minimum it should be 23 or more than 23. So again when I take first average, it is 31.3. Again second average is 28 and third average is 28.7. Okay, so average of all this, it is 29.3 Newton per mm square. If I take average of this, it will be 29.3 Newton per mm square, because there were 9 specimens and 3 samples. So average of all 3 samples is 29.3 Newton per mm square. So let us see whether we can accept these results or not. So number 1, all individual cube strengths are within plus or minus 15% of average value. That is true, because here you can see this column, that's 0.85 of average strength, and you can see 1.15 of average strength, and you can see the individual cube results in the second column. So all the cube results, for example 33, 29 and 32, they are lying between 26.6 and 36. 24, 32 and 28, they are lying between 23.8 and 32.2. 25, 29 and 32, they are lying between 24.4 and 33. That means the first criterion is satisfied. Next, from shifts 1, 2 and 3, individual cube strengths are greater than 23. That means they are greater than FCK minus 2, because here you can see no cube strength is less than 23. The minimum strength is here you can see 24. So it is greater than 23. So that criterion is also passed. Next, the average cube strength of shifts 1, 2 and 3. That means here when I took the average compressive strength of sample number 1, 2 and 3, it is 29.3, which is greater than 29. 29 is nothing but FCK plus 4. So here also the criterion is passed. That means all criteria are satisfied, and therefore this concrete on the site can be accepted. Next, finally, case 3. Suppose I am still doing more concreting. That is 75 meter cube of concreting is done on the site. Now 75 meter cube means it is more than 50 meter cube. And we know that up to 50 meter cube, we have to use 4 samples. And now it is 75 meter cube. And every additional 50, we have to use additional 1 sample. So here we are using totally 6 samples. Now 6 samples, that means 18 specimens are cast in the on the site. So here again the second column shows the individual cube strengths. Here there are 6 samples. Each sample consists of 3 individual specimens. Again column number 3, it shows the average value. That means for example 1 I will tell 22 plus 28 plus 26 all divided by 3 will give 25.3. So same will be true for remaining 5 samples. Then again when I take 85% of F average, that means 0.85 into 25.3, that is 21.5. Again the same is the thing for remaining 5 samples. And when I take 1.15 of 25.3, it will be 29.1, and same is the case for all remaining 5 samples. Again this third column, it is reproduced in the last column. That is same, again it is copied here. That is 25.3, 26, 33, 32, 32 and 25 for the better understanding. Now again, as per IS code, acceptance here when the samples are 4 or more than 4 is nothing but FCK plus 0.825 into standard deviation, or you can say we can round it off. So acceptance is 25 plus 0.825 into 4, that is 28.3. And next is either it is this, or we had seen that it is FCK plus 3, whichever is greater. So even if you take FCK plus 3, that is 25 plus 3, that is 28. So here also it is 28.3, and if we do by FCK by 3 also, then also it is 28. So 28.3 and 28, they are very close. So we can take them as only 1. So it is rounded off to 28. And individually it says that when the samples are 4 or more than 4, then individual value should not be less than FCK minus 3. That is 25 minus 3. That is 22. So let us again with respect to this table see whether it is passed or rejected. Number 1. All individual cube strengths are within plus or minus 15% of average value. That is very important. That means here 22, 28 and 26. They are between 21.5 and 29.1. Similarly 26, 24 and 28. They are between 22.1 and 29.9. And same is the true for all remaining 4 batches or samples rather. Then average of shifts 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 consecutive non-overlapping, which I told 10 minutes back. It is 29.1. That means if I take the average of 25.3, 26, 33 and 32, that means first 4 samples, then it is 29.1, which is greater than 28, because we know that acceptance is 28 Newton per mm square. So here also that criterion is satisfied. Now suppose even if you overlap also, for example, even if I take the average of shifts 2, 3, 4 and 5, that means 26, 33, 32 and 32, then the average is 30.8 Newton per mm square, which is again greater than 28. So here also it is okay. Now suppose again I overlap, that is average of shifts 3, 4, 5 and 6, then that is 33 plus 32 plus 32 plus 25 whole divided by 4, then the average is 30.5. So which is again greater than 28 Newton per mm square. That means even we overlap here, then again it is satisfying all the criteria. So, and most importantly, the individual cube strength is should be greater than or equal to 22 Newton per mm square. And here the individual cube strength, you can see the least cube strength is 22. So because you individual cube strength is it should be minimum FCK minus 3 when the samples are 4 or more than 4. So it is 25 minus 3, so 22. So here the problem would have occurred if the individual cube strength would have been less than 22. But here you can see the very first value in column number 2, it is 22. Therefore this criterion is also satisfied. So all the 4 criteria are satisfied, so this concrete can be accepted. So for this I had made these 2 references. I hope the acceptance criteria as per table number 11 having the 4th amendment in May 2013 is clear to all. Thank you very much. I want to end here. Thank you.